You're not transmitting.
Who, what?
You were not transmitting any of that.
Not true. I didn't talk.
Oh, whenever you're ready.
Oh,
77.
okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello and welcome to Mini PC Show episode 77 Prime. That's right. Big talk, small computers, and Door shrugging. Door, how the heck are you? You know you're my favorite person on the planet, right?
Crazy. That's how I am, Rich. And I keep forgetting. It has been so long. I'm transmitting. It's busy, crazy, normal, insanity. And if I'm the favorite person, I guess I got something uh going my way.
Well, I guess I associate hanging out with you like the good times we do at whatever Linux Fest du jour it may be, and we have a lot of common interests. So between liquor and stuff like that. So I think of good times.
Speaking of liquor, I got a coworker who actually lives in Virginia. And in Virginia, they have Aldi's, which are sister chains to Wegmans, I believe, where they have $17 a bottle whiskey that supposedly has won some kind of championship for the last 3 years or something like that. So I'm going to hopefully be partaking in that just to see how it is, because for 17, 18 bucks, it's worth a gamble.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I like Patron tequila, and somebody has told me that the Costco tequila is really good, and I haven't tried that yet. And I gotta fess up, I poured myself like 2 shots worth at a rocks glass this past week, which was July 4th, and I couldn't finish it.
Wow. Okay. Didn't think you were going to say that.
Yeah, I'm out of practice. You don't know how it hurt pouring that away.
Yeah, I was over my mother-in-law's, had some Yingling, and just the kids were kids. Yeah, but this is basically like deja vu, because this is our second attempt at show 77.
Yes, it is. So we have to apologize for not being on the air in a while and not bringing people mini PC stuff.
Well, and I'll say this: what I'm going to do, no matter what, I'm going to attach every possible link that we could have for this show in the notes to show people that when I say, "Is there anything on the list spot in your eye?" It's been so long, the list is kind of insane. So we're going to put it out there.
Yep.
All the things, it's kind of crazy. But I'll say this, Rich. The one thing I'm seeing consistency in the mini PC stuff is slow, consistent innovation on different things. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so I got my HC1, and actually, before I dive into that, there many times on the show I've talked about having lots of love for x86 single board computers. Someday in the future, I'm going to say the opposite.
Yeah.
Because the ARMs are going to be kicking butt soon, and I can't wait for that day.
Well, did you hear the latest ARM news from NVIDIA, I want to say? Yeah, NVIDIA.
I think it's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, the NVIDIA X2 processor that's been talked about for almost a year, or if not more, is coming out, and it's coming out on the headset manufacturer. I want to say Oculus. It's one of those VR companies that's saying it's going to come out with it. I can't remember. I just saw it today, and I thought I bookmarked it, but I don't see it in the list. The X2 processor is supposed to be like game changing type of processing going on. But what NVIDIA talked about maybe the most at conferences and events was the IDE tool for it was some of the best software they said ever made, kind of thing.
Now that's pretty cool. I think there's going to be a lot coming. I hope I have it in the link here because one of the top 500 supercomputers I believe is ARM based also.
Well, the newest one inside the United States was the largest teraflop right now supercomputer, and it did have a section of GPUs, and whenever they're running, they said it can take the different task and put it towards a different processor depending on which processor would perform better at that task. So, yeah, we are definitely heading that way, and that to me is good news.
So, since our last show, I got an HC1, and that is just crazy cool. I did put out a video. Did I throw my video link in the links here? But I did basically put out an unboxing video and shucking a hard drive and dropping it in, and I threw Diet Pie on it, of course, and a couple of things. Basically, it's an o-droid XU4, and unlike the o-droid XU4, there's only a USB port. There's no USB 3.0 port or two USB 3.0 ports like on an XU4, and there's no HDMI port. Oh, and there's no 40-pin header. So basically, you're getting a SATA connector, an Ethernet connector, and one USB. So that's it. Oh, and I should say an SD. So there isn't a eMMC option on it either. So your first boot has to be from an SD card. But really like it. I also put out a video. I did make it public. My data center in a drawer has been retired by popular demand from the boss, and that's my wife. And she picked up some new cabinets at Goodwill for super cheap. I think it was like $29 a shelf unit. I don't know if you saw the video I put out, but it looks pretty good. And what I did, I was going to get all creative like I did with the data center in a drawer and cut ventilation slots and blah, blah, blah. And I cut so much out, I'm like, at this point, I might as well just cut the whole back off. Like, so the bottom half is a cabinet with two doors and a shelf in the middle. So there's an upper and a lower section. And then the upper part is bookcase. So what I did is I put the UPS and all the power strips and wall warts and whatever under the first shelf, which maybe I should have done that different because the heat's going to rise, but it'll just go out the back. And then I put the mini PC type stuff on the second shelf. And then I suspended a 100mm fan over the hotter running mini PCs with zippy ties. So that kind of worked out cool. I taped two zippy ties to a piece of paper and then stapled it to the upper portion, or the underside of the upper portion, and then just connected up the zippy ties, tail to head kind of thing, and that suspended the fan. Plus, I can adjust the height now. So it's super cleaned up a lot of stuff. And what I did is I moved my modem and router to the top shelf of the bookcase. So now I can tell my wife, instead of fishing through all of the wires with mini PCs, etc., that, oh, there's the modem, power it down or power the router down and power them up when I'm not around, and giving her instructions on resetting everything.
That's always good. And I'll say, to me, the most important thing about mini computers, what you did is you added cubic space to their area so they could dissipate heat in free air, but then the fan helps it. Like the tight cases are the things that I worry about the most, the ones that are like solid just because the air in there never moves. At least you have it in a bigger area where the air can move. It isn't going to be crazy, but it's going to help a lot.
And one of the things I learned with like my Bitcoin miner is, and if anybody wants to talk to me about Bitcoin miners, you should have done that several years ago. I'm totally out of the loop on that stuff now. But one of the things I learned is what was the easiest to do and best was set up like a desktop fan on top of the GPU cards blowing down. But that didn't work on its own. You needed like a 1-inch riser off so the cards were higher, and basically air in and air out needs to equal. So if you can blow a whole bunch of air by your GPU cards, that's not going to fix it. The air has to go somewhere. So you want to blow it past them. So if you get a 1-inch riser, then the air is going to go, around and out as opposed to just kind of pooling up. So airflow, not just volume, is very important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In my house, I'm ground level, first level, second level, no door between the three, and I try to explain to the kids how the temperature rises. The air has to go someplace. If you open up a window on one side of the house, you also got to do it on the other, or else there's no
flow.
Right. It wants to be at perfect balanced pressure. So if some comes in, some has to leave. If some leaves, some has to come in. Yes. And that's one of the things that I do like when I see a good design that allows the over under and it has a clear direction of flow.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been using my Zotac Z-Box again at work back and forth, and it's working very well. I need to reflash the Rock 64 firmware on that one I have, but the article I did finally put in the notes, Rich, about the Tegra 2, and I should have known it. It's Magic Leap is going to be doing it, and I know you've heard of Magic Leap. Haven't you?
Is that, yeah, I nodded. I guess you don't hear that so well. That's line 687?
Yeah. 687. Magic Leap is one of those things that it's been in and out of at least the journalist articles here and there for, I don't know, over a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, that's not good then.
Well, I'll just say it is what it is, what it is, what it is. I just want to see this chip become real.
If 2.3 billion.
Yeah. Okay. Magic Leap is promising magic-like things in computers, literally Magic Leap. And everybody who's been allowed to interact with it has been under strict NDAs. They've only said very few things about it that they were allowed to say, and it was like, this is groundbreaking, this is crazy, blah, blah, blah. So they're making money hand over fist, but no one yet truly knows what they promised because everyone's under NDA. And now this is supposedly coming out. I'll say the X2 is definitely possible of doing a lot of things. Maybe this is one of them.
Wow. Wish I knew. This article doesn't give you a whole lot of information other than they raised $2.3 billion. And investors including Google, Alibaba, I don't know who, Anderson Horowitz, and it says a laundry list of others. I don't know who Anderson Horowitz is, if they're like a tech investor.
It's just, I'm going to say venture capitalist or something. I don't know. But it's just one of these things. We don't really know what it's going to be. We're going to have to see. But it's NVIDIA. NVIDIA just got done riding a good wave as far as cryptocurrency was concerned because they were some of the things being sold off the shelf. They couldn't make enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure their profit had to be at record highs, huge. I would think. So with that, what they did was they returned the investment back into the processor market, and this X2 might literally be like a crazy game like changer. I don't want to say, but I don't want to say it, but I am.
Hey, I wanted to ask a buddy of mine. He's like, I got the Google Glass. I don't know how many years ago that was a thing, but and at the time, everybody was kind of raving about the Google Glass. I guess there's a crazy amount of things you could do with augmented reality. I wonder what their take on it is.
Well, I think you're right. I think VR is VR is VR, but I do think AR is where you can do some truly unique, inventive things. That's where the money's at, I believe.
Yes, yeah, definitely augmented reality is where it's at.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. Don't. I can't tell you. I'll just say the only thing I know is if this is a true beginning of a new user interface on a computer to any level, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is how well is the software optimized to work with it, and that's the question about every computing device, whether it be a smart toaster or fridge or a supercomputer. So I don't know. I know they have a lot of money, a lot of investment, a lot of capital. Have no idea about them bringing in any specialized talent or anything, any names. I just know there's a lot of money there. And Silicon Valley HBO show, I believe, they make fun of VR because you have to. Yeah. Did you have any other mini PC interactions during the week or any of these note uh, line items? Because there was a couple that we talked about when we tried to record last time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I've been liking is so line 688 is a GitHub. Basically, it's a recipe of how to set up Time Machine or Time Capsule. I forget which. I guess it's Time Machine backup on a Raspberry Pi, and it's just a couple of open source libraries. But I also installed Observium on a Orange Pi Zero because I'm like, oh, okay, I got my new data center in a drawer set up. Let's fire up, all sorts of things. Now, Observium does SNMP monitoring of devices, so the idea is to have something to monitor the other things that are going on. And so if my Raspberry Pi that's doing home automation fails, or if my o-droid XU4 that does 100 things fails, it'll notify me. Or if it's running out of space, boot drive space, or if it's getting hot. And those are the kinds of things that you can do. Now, if you're going to manually install Observium, and there's a couple of things that are just a crazy pain in the butt to manually install. So Sonar, Radar, Plex are crazy hard to install manually. And if you can find a script, which a lot of people are doing this on GitHub, is they're, just posting the scripts, and whether you clone the Git repository onto your machine, or if you're lazy like me and you just take the raw text, highlight it, copy it, use Nano, and paste it into Nano, and then chmod it 777, and then run the shell script, and that does the install. So I did precisely that with Observium, and now I have Observium running on my Orange Pi Zero, monitoring my what was formerly, should I say, formerly known as my DCAD.
Gotcha. That's very cool. I still like using the Orange Pi where it fits. This I'll say the last commit was June the 4th, which that's the one thing about all Pi related things. My belief, the most recent, the best. This is here fresh. And Raspberry Pi. Did you really quick see the news about it in the last couple days? I didn't put a link to it in the notes because I didn't think it was worthy of noting.
Actually, no, I don't know what's going on.
There was more than a couple social postings I saw that said Raspberry Pi has Raspbian significant upgrade, and I can't remember the terms they used, but basically it's a graphical package manager store like interface. I don't know what to call it because I don't like those apps on my computers, and I never seem to use them because they typically suck. But it's a graphical like wizard for the package manager kind of thing.
Well, for the most part, and again, your mileage may vary. My I do command line stuff. I'm pretty much completely headless on all of my Pi devices. And I'm not bragging that I'm a command line hero. I'm just saying that's just how I do it. And if I was going to use a UI, I would do it headless also through VNC.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll say I just find it easier to use the command line because it's the same everywhere I go. But yeah,
Right.
it was like an app store was what they called, I believe, the Raspbian new feature. Which for those who like it, those who use it, congratulations. I'm not touching it.
So I gotta just kind of chime in here. One of the guys I work for an Indian consulting firm, and so one of the guys over in India that I work with, I sent a Raspberry Pi to, and actually I sent a Pi 3 and a Pi 0. And so the way it worked out is one of the guys came over here for like a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, and then I sent it back with the guy. So he just got it, and I'm going to be helping him set it up. He's looking to use it as a desktop. And he did see that there was Windows 10 IoT. I'm like, yeah, I haven't run it, so I can't speak authoritatively about it, but it's still a command line. It's not a Windows 10 desktop. So I kind of told him, while I haven't used it personally, I haven't heard good things about it either.
Well, I mean, the only thing I know about it for fact is it's Windows, which means all it really is an API interface to actions, reactions. It is not like a full featured OS because it's not. It's Microsoft. They admitted the reason they came out with their own Linux distro now, I guess 2 months ago, was because there's no way they could get their kernel to run on such low hardware. They said it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And I will say, we also talked about in the missing episode the Nano PC TC. I'm sorry, Nano PC T4 on 678. It's been 2 weeks because of the holiday. I'm still impressed with this board.
Okay, yeah, this one it was $129, but it does pack. It's Pam jacked with a lot of cool stuff. Plus, how can you not love a board that puts all of its chips on a 45-degree angle?
Well, it's like when you get your living room in perfect feng shui,
Feng shui?
something like that. Yeah. I mean, it is. I'll say this: a touch pricey. Now, if you go to checkout and it's $30 shipping, I would be upset. But I'll say I like the sounds of it. I like the looks of it. Form factor
Ouch.
wise, it's very acceptable. 4 gigs of RAM, PCIe slot on it, but it's the infamous RK3399 chip that's supposed to take over the world. Okay, Rich, did you click through to see how much shipping is?
No, I haven't clicked through yet.
Okay, I thought that's what the ouch was for.
Oh no, I'm just looking at this. I know we talked a week or two ago about this. The You gotta love the features. So dual core Cortex A72, quad core Cortex A53, dual camera interfaces. Which, if that's what you're into, I mean, heck, if it's a robotics platform or something like that, that could be phenomenal. All right, so it's got M2 and a PCIe X4 slot. It's got a Type C, and the Type C has a DisplayPort 1.2 on it. So that you got an extra display. You have a USB 3.0, 2.4, 5 gigahertz, Wi-Fi. So it's BGNAC or ABGNAC. You got an E. Is that E DisplayPort? What is the E for?
Yeah, it's it's a DisplayPort type socket.
So you got that HDMI 2.0. It says dual OS. I don't know if it's got 2 ways to boot. and that it talks about the size, 100 millimeter by 64 millimeter, if everybody knows what millimeters are. And I'm not saying that, it's a little tough for me being, in the SAE system to relate to millimeters a lot. So again, you can have, is it like 3 different monitors on it or 3 different ways to connect monitors? So that to me is something I've been looking for, that I want a board to slap on the back of my 2 monitors on my desk and have that the thing that I connect to everything else with.
Gotcha. Yeah, the dual OS thing, it says Android 7.1.2 and Lubuntu 16.04.
Okay,
Um,
so I go door.
so I mean, those are the 2 OSs. I would be suspect if it had a dual boot option. My logic is you'd have to hard boot into different ones.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite familiar with how that would be working, but all right. So they have power for a fan. I guess if you're going to drop a heatsink and a fan on there, gigabit Ethernet, which that's a big deal. So you got hardwired gig Ethernet. And eMMC. So we're like knocking it out of the park on stuff. What is it that I always cry about? I want on a board: USB 3 gig Ethernet, eMMC. I think that's. You got a 40-pin header, 4 gigs of RAM. We're really super knocking it out of the park here. So Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whole shoot match.
Yeah, the display looks like a ribbon cable, almost like a laptop.
Oh, okay, right. Isn't that for like LCDs then?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it says it's a 4-lane 10.8 gigahertz interface, which sounds nice.
Okay, wait a second. So this says 1 gig / 10 gig Ethernet. What magic are they cooking into this thing?
Where does it say? Well, scroll down in connectivity. It says Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet.
So if you scroll down to the mostly blue, it says SSD, SATA, USB, supports 4 types of expansion interfaces, 1 gig / 10 gigabit per second Ethernet Wi-Fi. I missed that last time.
Well, I know lower down in the actual picture, pointing at it, it says gigabit Ethernet. When past the huge images, uh, it says it again. Yeah, 110. It says 110 gigabit, 1 to 10 gigabit Ethernet.
So I guess it's doing 10 gigabit over copper.
No, that has to be a typo, I think, because if you just scroll down in the connectivity, it says gigabit. I don't. I'm just going to go with it's a gig. I have to believe it's
Okay.
a gig. With all the other stuff
If
on
it's
it.
10 gig, that's crazy. Then again, I got nothing else in my network that's 10 gig.
Right. Well, true. Yeah, same here. I will say the 4 gigs of RAM, the 16 gig onboard eMMC, those are 2 really good features. The gig is a plus. The USB 3 is good. The C is super nice. The C is the one that I'm actually impressed by. I would love to see, and I've been looking. I cannot find any videos or anything on it showing any of it off. So I don't know when it's coming out or available.
I don't see a buy here button. Yeah, I don't see a buy here and tell me how much the shipping is going to cost. Now, all the way on the bottom, it shows it with heat sinks, antennas, all of that stuff. I don't know if they're going to a la carte it or if that's going to all be included, and also the wall wart for it.
Gotcha. When I go onto their website, click add to cart, it looks like it works. Yeah, it's in my shopping cart.
Oh,
So,
I clicked. Yeah, I didn't realize that's all the way on the top. All right, where's my card? Tor, add 2 to your card.
not right now. Yeah,
Okay, if you go to my account, then it shows shopping cart. My shopping cart is empty.
yeah. Estimate shipping and taxes. It defaults country to China.
Oh, it says Nano PC purchase combination required. So I gotta select options.
Yeah. Maryland 210. Hit enter. I don't know what happened there. Try this again. $15. Sorry, $15 lowest price I can get for shipping. So 130, 145. That's still fair, I think.
It's fair. I definitely now the question is what OS is supported. And you know me, I'm a Diet Pie lover, so
Well, I don't know, but I'll say if you love Diet Pie enough, then I guess we have to donate them one or something.
so it says Android 712 and Lubuntu 1604.
Well, it honestly wouldn't shock me if they don't promote it. It might just be in the works, or might be hopefully somebody out there nice is sending them a board. I don't know.
Yeah, I've had more frequent conversations. I don't even know the guy's name from Diet Pie, but we've actually on Twitter we private message back and forth once in a while.
Okay, I found a link on Diet Pie forums. It basically says right now the guy's having technical issues with his notebook OS.
I think that's old. His kid broke his glasses, so that's his current problem.
July 7th, 2018.
Oh, okay, so it's fairly current.
Where he said, like, right now he's not able to work on the Nano PC T4 pre-built SD ready Diet Pie image.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy. Yeah, he said, hey, 612 operating system is going to be late because somehow, I forget if he described it or not, but somehow there was a child-induced breakage of his glasses.
That has to suck.
Yeah.
Well,
I keep two pairs of glasses all the time.
That's the thing. I mean, I see that thing. I don't want to assume that because I've been wearing glasses since 6 months old. So I always have a second pair in the house. Now, if I go on a trip, I often forget to bring a second pair. But at least here, I always have a backup because you have to. They cost too much money not to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really good looking board. Form factor wise, just a touch bigger than your standard pie size board, but I still think really cool.
For everything you get in it. Now, it does, if I'm reading this correct, and I don't want to lead people astray, it says shipping list, NanoPi PCT4, customized heatsink with screws, 2 dual band antennas, 12 volt 2 amp wall wart. I'm surprised it's only 2 amps. 12 volts, I guess at 12 volts you can push enough current through at 2 amps. Acrylic case. So it looks like you're getting a fairly complete setup. It's not a la carting you.
Well, yeah, that's nice. So you don't have to worry about the other things. Because honestly, there's more than a couple boards I've bought in the past. After like 2 days later, I realized I don't have a power supply for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like getting the toy on Christmas and not the batteries.
Yeah, that isn't fun. I will say, that board, at least it's still on my radar. I want to see something. I want to see it in action. But on like YouTube or something, it sounds really nice. I will say that.
Yeah, I'm not flush with cash enough that I just throw money at it and get it. You're right. I would have to sit on the fence a little bit. I'm not going to be an early adopter.
Yeah, well, for certain companies, I don't mind sticking my neck out supporting them. Friendly Arm has done some nice stuff. They've also done some not nice stuff. So I'll wait for the verdict to be called. Yeah, the amount of links in here are kind of crazy, Rich. It goes from open source home automation Kalos, Calaos, and just keeps going down through Linux MCE, which is an old blend of Linux to do home automation. And then just keep going on and on and on and on. The One Mix Yoga 7-inch convertible laptop unboxing first look. Link 666. Did you see that image whatsoever? Because I hear the word yoga and I always instantly think Lenovo. And this is not a Lenovo.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, you can buy
Oh,
one.
okay. That's a small form factor one, 7-inch.
Yeah. 7-inch convertible laptop is the way that they classify it, but it's basically yes. You can pre-order them at Geek Buying, a site I've bought more than a couple times in the past, for $460. That's the first thing when I hear 7-inch convertible laptop, whatever. How much is it? That's the first thing I want to know. $460 is a touch expensive for a 7-inch device, in my opinion.
Well, here's the thing. I can't use a 7-inch device. Actually, that's slightly bigger than my phone, pretty much. I got a Note 8. Yeah, without using my glasses, a 7-inch device isn't too useful to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how it can be useful to somebody. To me, I don't know. I would be hard pressed, my belief, but I really do like the idea of it. I had portable devices, not this size, like the Nokia Internet tablet N901 or 910, something like that. It was a really nice
Right, right.
device, really nice, but I can't see using that, especially like a laptop. No way I could type more than a couple letters before I get upset.
Yeah, if this was 2010, 2011, I'd be all over this. I would be raving like a lunatic about it.
Well, do you think it would still be like $400 back then? Because I don't.
Yeah. And again, I mentioned this. I don't know what podcast I mentioned it on, but I am definitely getting a lot of usefulness out of my $200 14-inch Chromebook.
Well, it is a Chromebook. To me, if you go into a Chromebook with the correct expectation, it's a very fine, capable device. If you go in with unrealistic expectations, you get mad really quick.
Oh yeah. I don't expect to edit videos on it. I don't expect to do a lot of things. And my primary use was to play videos, so YouTube, Plex, Netflix, whatever other video source, and write emails on Gmail. And that's pretty much my use case. Although I gotta boot it into whatever root, because I need to SSH, and you can't SSH without root.
Gotcha.
And I guess one more thing, I kind of talked about this on the Linux Link Tech Show. The thing that I'm impressed with, because I'm rocking a 2012 MacBook Pro, and no matter what my MacBook Pro does, it's hot. Meanwhile, I guess it's a 2017 Chromebook, never gets hot no matter what it does. And even if it's been playing videos for 8 hours and it has been plugged into the wall. So I'm super impressed with it, as with power, heat, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I had the original CR48. I signed up for it and they sent me one. So I've had many Chromebooks. I want to say at the most I've had 7 Chromebooks, but actually probably 4 or 5.
Oh wow!
And every single one has been good. Even on Newegg, I bought a $60 Samsung 3, I believe, Chromebook, refurbished, but the condition was a poor rating, like C or D or something like that. When I got it, opened the box, as soon as I did, I could see a very visible scratch right on the top of it. So it basically set my expectations up right away. But it damn thing runs like a champ. But it just looks like it's been through a light war.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Google was selling a Chromebook for like $1,000. I'm like, dude, you're out of your mind.
Well, all you can offer is primo hardware. The one had a feature that if you knocked on it, it would light up and it would be a battery indicator depending on how the light was. That kind of stuff is awesome. I'm not paying an extra $800 for that feature, but I would pay
Right.
something extra for that feature. I'll admit that, like maybe $50.
I'll tell you the only feature that my Chromebook doesn't have that is really on my want list is an illuminated keyboard.
Yeah, illuminated or backlit keyboard to me is
Mm-hmm.
one of those things. It's getting harder and harder to not have
Correct.
that. It just is almost ridiculous. Because it can't cost much at all. The power usage also next to nothing or nothing. So I don't see why not to do it unless you just want to be cheap.
Yeah, I guess unless you're using an off-the-shelf keyboard, or you found a really good source and pricing on a keyboard that wasn't illuminated, and that's where you cut your dollars.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's trying to unload it, congratulations. But on like all my keyboards at like work, even I've replaced their keyboard with one. It was a cheap $20 keyboard, I believe, but it works just fine and it's backlit because it has to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I wish it was easier to replace laptop keyboards with similar model keyboards because my old school ThinkPad T430 has a version with a backlit keyboard, but from what I read, it is not necessarily possible to even be connected. So
Ah.
that sucks. Gotcha. Yeah, there was definitely more in here, Rich. Even from a humble book bundle, programmer boards by Make. That sounded cool. Um, o-droid model comparison. Which one is right by you? I thought that was cool. And then there was a Cabby Lake one, which I honestly put in here just in case Brian was here. Um, Brian is sick and under the weather, is what I'll say. Line. Sorry,
674.
you got it, brother. 674. Chewy. Chewy. We've heard of Chewy on this show at least a couple times. I'll say this. It, it, I'm never going to say that they're the top of the line. I'm never going to say that they're the bottom of the line. They're Chewy. I've seen 3 of their devices, I want to say. One of them was not great. The other 2 were just fine. And this one I think is at least interesting, but the starting price was $8.99 and up. And they're hitting indie
Ooh.
go to try to raise funds for it. But it's a
Okay, so
Cabby Lake.
I'm looking at the box, and it's looking like, what was the aluminum Mac server that stood up?
I just knew it was a
It's
Mac something, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of that. And then I see a pencil next to it, and I'm like, whoa. Of course, the ports were a giveaway also, that the USB ports in relation to the case. Like, this thing isn't much more than like a dollar bill in any dimension.
Yeah, this is very, very nice appearing, looking, and form factor wise. I don't want to say perfect, but like a backpackable computer. And there's 2 versions at least they're looking at doing. One is the Core i5, the other one is a Core i7. Both of them have Radeons in them. The one is $8.99, the i7 is $10.99. So you're definitely not cheap.
You know, if I was going to buy, I'm definitely getting the i7 for $200. I'm getting the i7, no
I
question.
know, but if you read the first list of features, Rich, this is like made for you. Both models feature a metal chassis with Thunderbolt 3 port, two HDMI 2.0 ports, two display ports, and a gigabit NIC.
Partridge in a pear tree.
And five USB 3.0 ports.
32 gigs of RAM.
Well, it
Nice.
says it supports up to. I would like to price out that RAM just because. You never know.
Oh, yeah.
But if you could even put it in, or do you have to buy it pre-ordered like that?
Well, it says DDR4 2400 memory has 2 SODIMM slots. So, yeah, you can drop it in, I'm sure.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. A bit on the sexy looking side, to a tech geek. But, parting with that much money, parting with $1,100, and I don't know if that includes the RAM.
I would have to hit like the lotto the day before or something to spend that kind of money.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's nice though.
It's kind of. Do you ever watch a Casey Neistat on YouTube?
Cannot say that name rings a bell whatsoever.
He's like, I forget what rank he is in YouTube, but he's way the heck up there. Anyhow, he did a review of a camera, and just like we're doing now, super nice, and it was a $1,200 Sony, basically fits in your shirt pocket camera. But he said if it was $700, it'd be fantastic.
Okay.
And that's my point here also. If this was much cheaper, it would be amazing. They're giving you a lot. They're definitely giving you a lot, but paying for all that, I find that just a reach, at least for my pocketbook.
Yeah, I will say, if I don't know what an i7 processor. I mean, I don't expect the cheapest I expect an i7 processor at all has to be $600-700. But once you go above high eights and nines, and there's no screen. You can get a similar spec laptop, I'm going to say, maybe, and spend less money. So what am I getting for that extra? I don't know.
All right, so since we're in the Intel world, and are we done with this? Can I sidestep?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Nook clone. I opened the tab. I don't know what line it is, but B-Links X45 Basic / Premium Nook clone launched for $220 and up. The cool thing about this, again, meeting my specification, is it's got 2 HDMI ports on it, which I would super love to have. Now, let's see. Okay, whoa, is that really? 3 models will be available. Premium Intel Celeron. Let's see. Premium based on Intel Celeron. How could the premium be based on? Or am I reading that wrong? Anyhow, respectively 4 gig, 64 gig, 6 gig, 128 gig RAM storage. I'm not sure how. You tell me I could get 128 gig of RAM on this? Or no. Okay, that's RAM and SSD. It's just not written right. So they're 4 gig / 64, and that's going to be 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of SSD, and 6 gigs of RAM. All right, so I'm not quite as excited as I was. So, all right, I guess this is an all-in-one machine, and if you're paying $229 for a box with 2 HDMI ports, gigabit Ethernet, and 2 USB 3.0, I think that's a reasonable price.
Yeah. Very reasonable. Honestly, I will say, the only thing, you want the multiple video outputs.
Mm-hmm.
What I would love is 2 gigabit NICs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would like, but it isn't there. Everything else about this box is really nice. And it, I mean, it's a Celeron, which I'm sure it isn't an i7, but I think I can do a large percentage of everything I need to do on a computer on a Celeron, and it won't be crazy. I mean, my main rig is 7 years old.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I keep kind of scratching my 2012 MacBook Pro is an i7, and I'm like, and what's my 2012 i7 compared to today? Is that like an i3?
Well, I think it's really hard to compare the two, but I will say, I want to say then that would make that generation fourth or fifth generation, maybe fifth. So yeah, and we are definitely like 3 generations past that. So yeah, and I will say I am a huge fan of the NUC form factor, so that alone to me has it going on its side. Um, Pricing starting at 219, that seems actually reasonable. So that's a very good find because most of the NUCs are the cheapest one I want to say is 180 ish. So I think this is a good place to start. Has some more ports, I believe, too.
That's something I might visit on the way back. I'm like, that might be good for my home office. All right, I dropped a link into our Hangout chat, and this is something one of our listeners slash friends 5150 got, and he was talking about this is a Jetway Intel Celeron N2930 quad and quad CPU with 4 external RJ45. Oh wait, it says external RJ45 serial ports. So does that mean they're not Ethernet ports? Because this looks like it's a router board because it has one separate, looks like gig Ethernet, and then it has another group of 4 ports that look like RJ45.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of that, but I guess this is it. I mean, did RJ? Yeah, RJ45 has that number. Okay, I didn't pick that up the first time I looked at that. So yeah, wow.
Okay,
Okay,
so if you scroll down to where it says about this item, and on the right, Mini ITX, Bay Trail Fanless, Intel Celeron, 1 LAN, comma, SATA 2 display, VGA, and then it says PCIe, and then it says 6 COM, and then in parentheses 4X EXT RJ45. So it has 1 Ethernet port, and that's it.
I will say I'm not sure what you can use the other ones for. The com, I mean, I think you can set up basic communications through with it. Like you could have it going out long distances to IoT type devices, maybe, but I don't know what else.
Yeah, so I'm kind of surprised on this because 5150, what he was looking to do is put pfSense on this, which is the Intel version of it is open source. They have an ARM board version, but I don't think they're open sourcing the ARM.
Gotcha. Well, what really caught me off guard was how the hell did he find this at Walmart.com?
Yeah, yeah.
What the hell is Walmart doing? Offering this? It confuses me.
Yeah, Walmart's trying to be Amazon, and it's that's a whole nother interesting topic because Walmart's very good at retailing things at a very good price, so their distribution has got to be excellent. And just with the lack of foresight, they were not Amazon. And I think they're trying to play catch up.
Well, I'll say one thing is they have to be making more money per purchase than Amazon is making, which means they don't have to sell as much as Amazon to make as much money. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because Amazon's making reportedly next to nothing on everything. They're just making enough next to nothing to make something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that why their compute resources cost so much?
Oh, well, they have to have their profit leaders. They're the ones that they actually like to have. But Walmart just having this device first off threw me such a curveball and did not pick up the serial ports. Wow. Okay. So
Yeah, because I know 5150 mentioned something and I didn't quite understand what he said, and just I would have assumed, anytime you say RJ45, that's Cat5 Ethernet to me. But it ain't.
I don't know, man. I'm trying to get better shots of it, and I'm not. Yeah, confusing. Well, Fitty, I ask you if you're listening to this, let us know what you're doing with it, what you did with it, what your plans are with it. 'Cause it's at least an interesting board that's readily available, even though it says only one left in stock, that anybody right now in the world could buy, basically, because it's at Walmart.com. I think it's funny though, Rich. We have literally like 40 plus links to talk about, and we went to two links that weren't in the notes at all.
Well, we do share these things around on the Google Plus mini PC list.
Gotcha. I'm gonna throw this one out there. Line 680, Rich. Because I think one of the use cases for these mini computers that is actually very easy to do on lots of levels, it's actually easy, it's not just simple, is to host your own Git server. Now, the reasons to host a Git server are basically, to me, endless. You can literally have a folder on each computer that is your um, finances, and just every time you have it there, you can do clones back to your basically data store and have version information backing all the way up. Anything you can save, especially text based, you can put into a Git server. You don't have to be a coder to have a Git server, and it's actually useful. It's actually very useful. The main reason is because the Git interface, you can put different ones in your browser and have all kinds of different access to it. But on Hackaday, they have like a crash course in how to Git. What is Git? How to use Git, and how you can use it over SSH and other protocols like that. It to me is one of those tools. Realistically, if you install it and you have it running on the computer and you think about it every couple days, you will find a use for a Git server. I guarantee you, in less than a week and a half. It's a really nice backup solution, tool kind of thing that you can use. I used it for a couple of years.
I'll tell you what was nice. So I set up a Git repo, and I'd rather do it locally because what I was doing is source code that I modified specifically for my mini PCs in my own environment. I could, install the Git client and then just do a Git clone and pull it down and have it loaded and run. And this way, it's repeatable. So if something happens that I replace these machines, or that if I modify the script, it's very easy to update it on all of them in a very short period of time. Now I'm going to reach out to DietPi again and giving them much love. I haven't installed it, but when you go through the checkboxes of apps that you can install with DietPi, there's a Git-like repo that you can install on your, with DietPi on whatever Pi device you're running. So my understanding is Git client is open source, but the Git repo is not. So I don't believe you can install actual Git on your Pi device, but you can install something that works like Git uh, from basically DietPy, and I'm sure it's just apt to, install something. I forget whatever the name is.
Well, I I'm gonna say I'm shocked because I know I've installed it on computers, and I guess I just copied little script files down to get it installed because I've had it there before. Um, w I'll say this, Git is completely open. It's Linus Torvald thing. A lot of people have a lot of things associated with Git that aren't Git that people, um, didn't know. Like, the big, hubbub, that we missed was the, GitHub being bought by M Microsoft, and then all these compl people with literally the IQ of, like, 45 complaining on the internet about it. I thought was genuinely hysterical because GitHub is a private company with closed source code that they had the whole time. So all I gotta say is good on them. They made some money. Congratulations.
Okay, so in DietPy, it's called Gitia, and it says your very own GitHub style server with a web interface. So it's got MySQL on the back end, and then a file path for a repository, and it runs on port 3000.
Gotcha. Yeah, and the number of interfaces you can have to a Git repo is kinda crazy. If you go to Alternative 2, which is one of the sites I mentioned last show, and just put in, GitHub or any of those anything Git related whatsoever and type a search in there, you will get 20, 40, 60 back, at least, I'll say. Um, so I'm a big fan of being able to do that kind of thing on my mini computer. And, it's made by Linus Torvald, so it has to be good, right?
It's got to be good. Or full of curses.
Or both.
Okay, so I'm going to go sideways a little bit here. I'm just looking, I looked up on dietpy.com the software. In under Gitia, which is the GitHub work-alike type thing, is Home Assistant. I'm like, Home Assistant? Is that Home Automation Assistant? Yes, it is. So I'm running Haspian, which is, Raspbian with Home Automation Assistant. This is DietPy with Home Automation Assistant as check a box and run it. So that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I've had a couple people interested in home automation, and I pointed them to that. I know, at least 1 or 2 guys in IRC booted it up, and they definitely liked what they saw, and they started to use it a little bit in their environment. I don't wanna say it's the best one out there, but it's pretty close to being, like, the best one out there.
Well, I think with home automation, and again, I'm using Home Automation Assistant. For a while, I used another tool, and I can't remember right now what it is. But I think if you find it works with a bunch of the products that you have, and that it interfaces well, there's also a Android phone app, so I can click on my phone like I would click on a web page. So I don't necessarily have to load the web page, which the responsive design works, but again, it's not great. Having an app on your phone that populates all of the devices and that you can click them on and off or whatever it may be that you're doing, that's kind of nice. But for the most part, actually, Home Automation Assistant does talk to my alarm system, and it does lights and switches outlets, and one of the outlets is my printer for my HP LaserJet 5. So alarm, lights, printer slash outlet.
Gotcha. Yeah, the number of, supported interfaces with Home Assistant.io is one of those things. It's insanity if you scroll through it. Hundreds of different names in the business.
Well, the only other problem with Home Assistant is there's different revs of things. So you might follow one recipe, and that may not be the most current recipe. So if you are going to go down a certain rabbit hole, make sure. Oh, what are the other? So make sure you're running the most current version of a recipe to do something with Home Assistant. The other thing that I find useful is if you go through their website, there's going to be a GitHub link to people's configurations, and that'll give you a good idea to how to set it up.
That's actually awesome. More than a couple of things when I first start to play with them, what I really want is sample example configurations, especially like i3 desktop. Once I found repos of those files, I was able to actually get what I needed done with very little effort. We all copy paste just fine.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the other good thing, once you start throwing more and more devices that are going to be controlled by Home Automation Assistant, you may want to break them up into separate files. So it's YAML, and you may want to have like a lighting YAML, an outlet YAML, and this way you can break up what you're doing. I was also doing MQTT, that it would do presence detection. I found that was the best thing to detect my location with my phone. So it would turn on my office light if it was night. When I was, just a test of it was turn on my office light when it's at night when I'm coming home. And it knows when I'm entering an area versus leaving an area. So it can do different things in the house. One of the best examples of something like that is a thermostat. If you have thermostat control, that'll bring the air conditioning down on a hot day if it knows somebody's in the house, and let it go up if it's not detecting anyone in the house.
Very cool. I see. I thought you were going to say the first thing could be like doors from Star Trek.
Well, yes, and part of me. So I don't want to be too automated. I do want to be, slightly better than Amish with electric, but like I would like my garage door to open, but I still have a unconnected keypad to enter from the garage into the house. I can use a key, but I have a keypad, so I just type in a 4-digit code, and that unlocks the door, and then I'm in the house, and then I have to deactivate the alarm. So the other thing I did with the alarm is I use key fobs. So my wife and daughter have a key fob, and they could just push a button and deactivate the alarm, which is kind of nice. And it also means there's a person doing that intelligently, because I don't know that I want the home automation to detect I'm coming home, open the garage door, unlock the passage door, and deactivate the alarm. I think if it opens the garage door, that's good. Maybe if it turns the lights on in the kitchen or something like that, but I don't want it unlocking the door and deactivating the alarm.
Yeah, I mean, if there were ways I could have them activated differently, if you will, if it could be one seamless experience, I'll be fine with that. But through one mechanism the entire time, I'm not really, comfortable with that. Like when you get in the garage, there's a sensor down by where you always park that there's a chip in your shoe that then unlocks, I don't know, something else, but not using the same protocol.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't mind. I'm not going to get an RFID thing implanted between my thumb and forefinger, but I wouldn't mind an RFID ring. I'd wear an RFID ring to do things.
Yeah, I did see two. For some reason, I did see two rings in the last 2 weeks. One of them was an RFID ring, and it was a little bit too much money. Still, I want to say it was 160,
They're
170.
out of their minds.
Well, and I have seen cheaper ones, but they were not as appealing. This one to me, I thought looked really good. But I I've mixed things about that. Yeah, the thing is, what's on the ring is not gonna be able to kill anybody. You know, we have to draw our limit someplace. So as it comes to security, it's gonna have limited functions because all it takes is me touching something for something to be able to jack that signal and then own it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, you know, I love the idea, but it would have a very limited use case. But I could see it being a use case, and I still want my Star Trek doors. So maybe it could be on my hand. I wave my hand. I don't know.
So the one last thing I was considering, I have EasyViz security cameras, and it's an 8 camera setup with like 2 terabyte. Instead of DVR, they call it, I think, NVR, network video recorder. Yeah, that's it. And it works good. I like what it does. Unfortunately, I'm in the category, I guess maybe I learned it from you. If you don't have root, you don't own it. And there's a couple of things I'd like, and I didn't update the firmware. I think if I do update the firmware, it'll have IFT connectivity, but the IFT on this device isn't so useful. It's like if it detects motion. Well, when it goes into night mode with the IR, it attracts moths, and there is always motion. So it's going to be highly unuseful. But I saw that I could buy a third-party NVR that had better features, that had a better feature set. So one of the things, like where you're talking about, if I would be more okay if it identified my car, or if it did facial recognition and say, hey, oh, Richard's in the garage. Let me turn off the alarm, unlock the door, and let him in. Door, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry. A buddy at work sent me a video that he thought was funny. I could not finish watching. I was so upset by it. It was a guy with a Southern American accent who ripped apart one of those outlet boxes. I want to say straight from Hong Kong. You rip them open. There's a ESP 266 inside, but they were like $6. They're almost cheaper than what we can get them for, kind of thing. So the logic is 99% of them sold are by people who know what it is. They get it home, they rip it open, they take out that chip, and they reprogram, they reflash the OS. That's what they do. This guy went off for 10 minutes on how this is like the end of our country. This is proof that they're going to take over the world. They put these in here, you put it in your house, and you give them access to your entire house. It's the end of civilization as we know it. They're going to kill us all. That's a bit extreme. So yeah, that was kind of annoying, but it was a cool usage of a ESP 266. And the bottom line is, on his thing or your thing, or every time I use one of these things, if you don't have root, somebody else does. With anything, it doesn't matter what the company name is on it. If you don't have root, somebody else does, will, or could.
Yeah, that's like, and again, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. My wife and I were walking through one of these stores with, maybe it was Best Buy, and they had a refrigerator. The refrigerator was like $2,000 more than any other refrigerator I've ever seen, because it had the doors had touch screens on them. I'm like, I never want that. That is a never buy device. It was a 10-second ooh and ah. Then I thought about firmware updates and hacking, and I'm like, whoa. Like, yeah, if I ever want something like this, I'll like double side tape or Velcro a tablet onto the refrigerator.
It's going to be difficult for them to convince me to do otherwise, is what I'll say. I mean, if anything has been proven, when people sell lots of things like phones or tablets, as soon as they can drop support for them, they will.
Absolutely.
Because it encourages you to go buy a new one. I wouldn't think it'd be any different on a TV, a fridge, or any other device.
Yeah, I don't want a BSOD on my refrigerator.
Yeah, not good.
Well, and that's the same thing. Washer, dryer, refrigerator. I'm like, no. I don't want those connected. I don't want those. Now, what I would want connected is maybe my pool pump and a couple of some functionality and some sensors around my pool I would be interested in.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, Rich. Were there any other links in here that you want to talk about or that caught your eye?
Yeah, let's hit 677 and call it a night.
Okay, I can't see. No. I know I saw this. I know I saw this because the
Yeah, we
image of
talked about this.
servers alone, that image they have, I think is, I don't know why, but it definitely caught my
Awful,
attention. And I stared at it for like 3 minutes.
because it was just awful.
I don't know. I can't tell you, but I did, and that's the reason why I remember. I looked at the image more than I looked or not. Okay. Looks like it's working. Sorry about that. Okay, so we can go to flymerce.com. Do you have any last words to throw out there? I'll just say, Brian, hope you can join us next week. Everybody else, you can contact us.
Yeah, just I always enjoy hanging out with you, Dor, and I love the mini PC show. So I get a real kick out of doing this, and these things are useful in my everyday life. And if this is one of the first times you're listening to the show, definitely check out some of our previous shows, and these devices can make things a lot easier for you.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you very much, Rich. And I'll just ask everybody out there, support those who support you. See ya.